Hello, dear friend. Welcome to EverWell Seniors, where wisdom meets well-being. We're so glad you're here. This space was created for you, for the strong, graceful, and ever-evolving women who have lived, loved, lost, and learned, and are still rising with wisdom in their eyes and fire in their hearts. At EverWell, we believe growing older isn't about fading away. It's about shining brighter than ever. And that brings us to today's conversation. If you're a woman over 60, first, let me say this. You are a treasure, a keeper of stories, strength, and spirit. But even the wisest among us sometimes need reminders, not just about what to do as we age, but what to avoid. This video isn't about fear, it's about freedom, because aging well isn't just about adding candles to the cake. It's about shedding the habits, beliefs, and burdens that no longer serve us. Think of this as a conversation between old friends, heart to heart. So grab a warm drink, settle into your coziest chair, and let's talk about the 8 things women over 60 should never do. Not because we're fragile, but because we are finally strong enough to choose better. Let's begin. 1. Never apologize for putting yourself first. Let's get one thing straight. You've spent most of your life giving. Giving to your children, your partner, your job, your parents, your community. And for many women, especially those raised to be caretakers, the idea of choosing themselves feels selfish. But hear this clearly. You are not selfish for caring about your own well-being. I remember my friend Helen, 68 years young, who used to cancel her doctor's appointments because her daughter needed help with the kids. She skipped meals, postponed vacations, and ignored her own back pain for years. One day, she fainted in her kitchen. Her body had enough. She later told me, "I thought being a good mum meant sacrificing everything, but now I realize my health is part of what makes me a good mum and grandma." Putting yourself first isn't a betrayal, it's a blessing. When you nourish yourself, you're not just surviving, you're modeling something powerful for the next generation. That women are allowed to take up space, to rest, to heal, to be happy. So no more apologies for choosing a quiet walk, a long bath, a second opinion, or saying no when your energy is low. This chapter of your life, it belongs to you, too. Never ignore what your body is telling you. There's a quiet wisdom that lives in a woman's body after 60. It's the wisdom that tells you when you're tired, not just a little sleepy, but soul tired. It's the ache in your knees that speaks of years of carrying groceries, children, grief, and grace. It's the flutter in your chest when something's not quite right. And yet, too many of us brush it off. Oh, it's just aging. I don't want to bother the doctor. I'll be fine after a nap. But here's the truth. Your body isn't complaining, it's communicating. And after all it's carried you through, it deserves to be heard. Let me tell you about Maria. Maria was 72, a retired school teacher with the kindest eyes. She started feeling dizzy now and then, especially when she got up too fast. She laughed it off, joked about needing more coffee, and kept pushing through. Then one morning, she collapsed while tending to her garden. It turned out she had been living with dangerously low blood pressure. One simple adjustment, one visit to the doctor, could have prevented the scare entirely. Maria recovered, thankfully. But what she said afterward stuck with me. I spent my life listening to everyone else. Students, my children, my husband. But I never really stopped to listen to me. There's no medal for suffering in silence. No trophy for being tough when your health is begging for attention. So don't wait until the whisper becomes a shout. If your joints ache every morning, if your heart flutters strangely, if your vision blurs, if your gut feels off. Listen. Ask questions. See your doctor. Demand answers. Because you are the expert of your body, and you deserve to feel good, not just to exist, but to thrive. 3. Never hold on to toxic relationships. By the time you reach 60, you've likely seen your fair share of relationships, some beautiful, some painful, and some that still linger, like a storm cloud you've grown used to. But here's a truth too many women overlook. You don't have to carry everyone with you into this next chapter. Not the friend who only calls when they need something. Not the sibling who still makes you feel small. Not the partner who dismisses your feelings or mocks your dreams. This is your season of peace, not penance. Let me tell you about Clara. Clara, 66, had been friends with Margie since high school. They'd weathered decades together, marriages, kids, careers. But over the years, Clara realized she always left their phone calls feeling drained. Margie constantly criticized her choices, scoffed at her health goals, and never once asked, "How are you doing?" One day, after another phone call full of passive jabs, Clara hung up and cried. And then she made a decision. She wrote a kind but firm letter explaining she needed space to grow, not shrink. It wasn't easy. She grieved. But weeks later, she told me, "I finally feel like I can breathe, like I made room in my life for people who lift me, not pull me down." Dear friend, you are allowed to outgrow people. You are allowed to protect your joy. And you are allowed to say, "This doesn't serve me anymore." Toxic relationships, even if they're decades old, do not define your worth. You do. Whether it's a family member, an old friend, or a romantic partner, ask yourself, does this person make me feel safe, respected, and seen? If the answer is no, it's okay to walk away, with love, with grace, and with your head held high. Because the company you keep now should feel like a warm blanket, not a weight on your shoulders. 4. Never stop learning or growing. Somewhere along the way, society began whispering a dangerous lie to women over 60. That your best years are behind you, that your mind has slowed, that it's too late to start something new. Well, let me say this as clearly as I can. Don't you dare believe it. Your brain? Still full of wonder. Your heart? Still capable of joy, curiosity, and courage? Your spirit? Still wildly capable of blooming? I want to tell you about Marlene. At 72, she signed up for her first watercolor class. Her hands trembled. She felt silly, surrounded by people half her age, but she showed up anyway. Week after week, she painted, she laughed, she cried. And one afternoon, she painted a soft ocean scene that made the instructor stop and say, "That is peace on a page." Marlene told me, "I didn't know I still had new beginnings inside me, but I do. We all do." Friend, learning doesn't have to mean textbooks or degrees. It can be as simple as trying a new recipe, picking up a journal and writing a memory, learning how to use that smartphone everyone talks about, joining a local club or book circle, taking a nature walk and naming the birds. Every day you wake up is a fresh invitation to grow, to stretch, to discover. And guess what? There's scientific proof that staying mentally active can boost memory, lower the risk of dementia, and increase happiness as we age. So don't close the book on yourself. Open a new chapter, even if it's just a page a day. Because learning isn't just about facts. It's about reminding yourself, you are still becoming. And that is a beautiful thing. 5. Never pretend you're fine when you're not. Let's have an honest moment, just between us. How many times have you smiled and said, "I'm fine," when you were anything but, when your joints ached, when you felt lonely, when something felt off. But you didn't want to bother anyone, didn't want to sound like a complainer, didn't want to seem weak. Sound familiar? Let me introduce you to Estelle. She's 66, vibrant, quick-witted, the kind of woman who still sends handwritten thank you cards and never shows up without cookies. But for months, Estelle was struggling with chest tightness. She brushed it off, said it was probably indigestion. She didn't want to worry her grown kids or make a fuss. Until one evening, her daughter insisted she go to the doctor. It wasn't gas. It wasn't stress. It was a warning sign. A real one. Caught early, treated in time. Estelle is doing just fine now. The real kind of fine. Here's the truth. You don't have to wear a brave face all the time. Strength isn't about staying silent. It's about speaking up. Even when your voice shakes. It's about calling a friend, a doctor, or your own child and saying, "Something doesn't feel right, and I need help." We've been taught, especially as women, to carry burdens quietly, to be the calm in everyone else's storm. But let me remind you, dear friend, you deserve support. You deserve care. You deserve to be heard. Whether it's your physical health, emotional well-being, or a pain you can't quite explain, never pretend you're fine just to keep the peace. Because peace doesn't come from silence. It comes from being seen and loved and cared for, just as you are. 6. Never stop making new friends. There's an old saying, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And after 60, going together becomes more important than ever. But here's the thing most people won't tell you. Friendship in our later years doesn't come as naturally as it did when we were younger. Back in the day, we made friends at school, work, PTA meetings, or chasing toddlers in the park. But now, many of us are retired, widowed, relocated, or living a quieter life. That doesn't mean we stop needing connection. It means we have to be braver about finding it. Let me tell you about Margaret. At 72, she moved to a new town to be closer to her grandchildren. She didn't know a soul. Her days felt quiet, too quiet. She missed having someone to chat with about books, old songs, or just the little things like how good the roses looked that day. One morning, she walked into the community centre for a watercolour class, heart pounding, palms sweating, like it was the first day of school. That's where she met June. They were seated next to each other, accidentally dipped their brushes in each other's rinse cups, and laughed until tears rolled. Today, they're inseparable. Art classes, lunch dates, puzzles on Sundays. Margaret told me, I thought I was too old to make new friends. Turns out, I was just one hello away. Here's the truth. New friendships can bloom at any age. You're never too old to find your people. Loneliness is common, but it's not permanent. So join the gardening club. Say hi at church, volunteer, try a Zoom book club, even comment on a YouTube video like this one. We read them truly. Reach out, because chances are someone else is out there, waiting for you to say hello. 7. Never let fear decide for you. By the time we reach our 60s and beyond, we've seen a lot. We've loved deeply, lost people we couldn't imagine life without, faced health scares, heartbreaks, and hard choices. And somewhere along the way, fear starts whispering in our ear. Don't try that. You might fall. Don't go there. You won't know anyone. Don't start over, it's too late. But friend, listen closely. Fear is loud, but it's not always right. Let me tell you about Carmen. She was 66, recently retired. and had always dreamed of seeing the world. But her husband had passed, and the idea of traveling alone terrified her. "I can't even figure out how to book a flight," she told me once, laughing nervously. "What if I get lost in Paris?" But that dream, it wouldn't go away. So one night, she sat down with her granddaughter, who helped her plan a solo trip to Italy, just one city, 1 week, one adventure. She almost cancelled 3 times, but she went. And you know what? She stood in the middle of a sunlit piazza in Florence with gelato in one hand and tears in her eyes, not from fear, but from pride. Because she did it. She came back with more than souvenirs. She came back with confidence, joy, and stories. Here's the lesson. Fear shrinks our world, but courage, even the smallest kind, expands it. Whether it's learning to dance, speaking your mind, taking that art class, moving to a new place, falling in love again. Don't let fear be the editor of your story. You're still writing it, and you get to choose boldness, laughter, growth. Because courage at 60, 70, or 80, that's real strength. 8. Never forget how valuable you are. Let me say this slowly, so it sinks deep into your heart. You are invaluable. Not because of what you've done, not because of how many people you've cared for or how productive you are, but simply because of who you are and the life you've lived. After 60, it's easy to feel like the world is moving on without you. You may not be the one in the boardroom anymore. The phone might not ring as often. Maybe people assume you don't understand technology or trends or what's going on these days. But let me remind you of something powerful. You carry decades of wisdom. You have laughed through storms. You've comforted others while breaking quietly inside. You've loved fiercely, worked tirelessly, and endured silently, even when no one noticed. That is strength. That is value. That is something no one can take away. I remember my Aunt Mabel. In her late 80s, she once sat me down and said, "You know, the world thinks we shrink with age, but I feel bigger. I may move slower, but I feel deeper. I see clearer. I know better." She was right. You may have wrinkles, but those are life's carvings. Proof that you've smiled, cried, survived, and kept going. So please, don't ever measure your worth by what society celebrates. Your value is not in your youth. Your value is in your story, your presence, your heart. And in the quiet strength that only comes with time, you still matter. You still have purpose. You still have so much to give and so much to receive. So hold your head high. Speak your truth. And never, not for a single second, doubt that the world is better because you're in it. So, here we are, dear friend. We've walked through 8 things women over 60 should never do. Not to limit your life, but to help you expand it. To protect what matters. To reclaim what's yours. To remind you that this season of life is not an ending. It's a powerful beginning. Because life after 60 isn't about fading quietly into the background. It's about stepping fully into the light, wiser, braver, and more beautifully you than ever before. If even one of these tips touched your heart, brought back a memory, or sparked a thought, please, don't let it end here. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Which of these never-dos do you relate to most? What advice would you give to your younger self, or to another woman starting her 60s? Your voice matters, more than you know. Someone reading your comment might find exactly the courage they needed today. If you haven't already, tap that subscribe button and join our family here at EverWell Seniors. Because aging isn't something we survive, it's something we celebrate together. And if there's a woman in your life, a sister, a friend, a neighbor, who needs to hear this message, send this video her way. It might just be the spark she needs. Thank you for being here, for being open, and for choosing to keep growing, even now. We'll see you in the next video. Until then, stay wise, stay well, and above all, stay you.